Scorpio, and welcome. I'm Adriana. I'm a soul guidance coach, and I help you choose growth and the healing of your inner roots. I have an intuitive message for you today. We will look at your inner world as well as your outside world and the interaction between the two. Okay, we've got the moon. We have the Eight of Roots, Ace of Roots, the one, and we have the Hierophant. So you've got major on the outside, minor on the inside. The words on the cards are discipline and enchantment. Okay. I want to start on the outside because there's so many different levels to this reading here. On one hand, we're looking at structures that are weird. Establishments that are in place that are either dealing with shadowy things or doing shadowy things. So religious institutions, larger corporations, things that have a structure. And so we're seeing the moon happen, which the card we think of as deception and illusion, things not being quite right. That's one message. That's one layer of the message. So we see this happening in the outside world. And the question is, what do I do with this? And the answer is going to do with going inside. But let's hold on for a second. On the other hand, this reading is also, these two cards are also asking for a challenge of established order. And what that really means in your life. What are the structures and orders and systems that you have in place that are maybe not working as well as they have been working? I think you're going to start finding in this particular time where we are, astrologically and just temporally, that any structures that have been created from control, whether it's our control or someone else's control, those are going to start to break down if they have not already been breaking down. So that to me is the shadow coming over the Hierophant. That we're not going to see these structures persist because they're just going to break down. Now, the other layer of this card, these two cards together, are that the spiritual journey is always an inward journey. And when we turn off what we're seeing on the outside and go inside, we always get deeper, stronger insights. It's not in this deck, but I have another card or another deck which talks about when you can see beyond the illusions put in place by the moon, then you are really seeing truly. So what this moon card helps us do is see truly. And it helps us see the systems that are in place in our life and in the world that don't work. Because the object of these systems are supposed to be are supposed to be supporting us, whether they are supporting us spiritually or through our health or supporting us in our emotional well-being. That's the point. And when something doesn't do that, when something doesn't work how it's supposed to work, it's time to dissolve it. But there's this shadowiness around it where we're maybe not seeing it completely clearly. And so these cards are asking us to really look deep and to really look deeper. Now, final layer, this is kind of like a dream. I love dream interpretations because there's layers to them. You never just stop at one layer, you keep going down and down. And that's what I feel is happening with these cards. And by the way, the moon card is also symbolic of dreams, right? On another level, we're looking at the difference between mother and father. What systems were put in place by the mother that don't work? What systems were put in place by the father? That Hierophant energy, this is the code, this is the structure. It's really fascinating what's going on because there's a shadowiness here. I keep saying shadowy, but we are shadowy right now. It may not be clear what's working, what's not working. You might just be feeling things break apart. Okay, So that being said, with the outside world, now let's look on the inside and see what's going on there. We've got Ace of Roots and the Eight of Roots. Okay, let me do the numbers real quick. The moon is 18, which is a 9. These two cards added together is a 9, and then 5 is our Hierophant. And fascinating little story, I am actually filming this video on 9/9/2021, which is a 9-day and a 5, totals up to 5. So there's something about the pertinence of timing. Timing is very, very salient here, very relevant here. Okay. Now with this card, we're talking about, with these cards, we're talking about enchantment and also disenchantment. There are ways that you are nurturing yourself that you feel still joyful about, that you still feel enchanted with, that you feel are a magical part of your day. Now, there are other parts of your day that don't feel that magical. And I feel that these cards are asking you to look and revise and rethink, what routines, what structures do I have in place, even in the minutia of my daily life? What do I have there that's not really totally filling me with that sense of wonder? You know, is your spiritual practice still filling you with that sense of wonder? Is connecting with food and eating and nourishing your body, is that making you connect with a sense of feeling grateful, not just for the earth, but for your own body? Do you see what I mean? There's a higher dimension to every little thing you do that you're being asked to embrace in a bigger way. The enchantment card is interesting because there's a plant here. I can't remember what plant it is, but we have different dimensions of nourishment going. We have some eating the roots, we have some animals eating the flowers, and we have some animals eating the leaves. So this plant is nurturing these different animals in a very multifaceted kind of way. So we're looking at the multifacets of your particular system or way of nourishing yourself. And the reason why that's important is because if every individual was very clear on what filled them with wonder, what nourished, I'm going to use we because that's just easier. If we were very clear on what would fill us with that nourishing sense of wonder, we would know what we were transforming into. Okay, it's not enough to break a system down, because if you break a system down but you have no vision about where it's going, then the system just reforms. I was reading about this yesterday with the about the French Revolution, and I know there's more details that I didn't really get into, but basically the French Revolution happened. The Catholic Church was very powerful in France. The French Revolution happened, the church was dissolved. The power of the church went away, all of the money went back to the people, all of this stuff. But the French Revolution, after that, the Reign of Terror kind of imploded, and that didn't last. And so then when Napoleon came back into power, he reinstated the church. So in the dismantling of the aristocracy, the French did not have a clear vision of what the future would be. They knew what they were reacting against, and the problem with the Reign of Terror is that they just started massacring everyone who didn't agree with them, all right? Without giving people a chance to change or transform, they just flat out massacred everyone, and that's why it didn't work. So my point is that it's up to us as individuals to figure out what it is that really nourishes and sustains us on all of these different levels, so that we can tell the universe how to rebuild, so that we can tell our world how to rebuild. And it seems so trivial to be looking at your mundane routines, but Ace of Pentacles, this card, Roots, tells us to get down to the roots, down to the minutia, down to the tiniest building block. Because unless we know what it is from the ground up, from the roots up, it's not going to be a strong or lasting foundation. It's not going to be strong or lasting structure. You know, we don't just go from an atom to an organism. It has to go through these stages of the cells multiplying and things getting bigger, but it gets built from the tiniest unit. So we have to go down to the tiniest unit of our day, which is routines, in order to get this wisdom out there. All right, Scorpio, let's get an advice card for you. All right, 10 of Cups, overflowing. So, what we're going for is a world, a life, a lifestyle that fills us with this feeling of being totally in the moment, of being filled with bliss, of being filled and nourished and nurtured in a way that we may not even understand how it gets there. But look at that multifaceted idea again. You see these different cups? That corresponds exactly with our different ways of nurturing. So this kind of tells us where we're headed. We're headed for joy. We're headed for bliss. But now we're trying to examine, how do I need to build this so that I can have this 10 of Cups be my reality? All right, Scorpio, thanks so much for joining me and sharing your time and your energy. If you want to reach out with a comment about your journey or anything else in general, that's always welcome. And if you'd like to reach out for a reading or learn more about how I can support your journey further, please check out the description below. It has some information for you there on how to get in touch. So I will look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good one, Scorpio.